Hi. Welcome to What's So Great About Shakespeare. I'm David Bishop, and this is What's So Great About Hamlet, Part 4. We come up to the departure of Laertes for France. We remember that Laertes asked permission to go to France, and it was granted. And Hamlet, although he didn't ask permission, wanted to go back to Wittenberg, we suppose, and permission was not granted. So Laertes is a normal young man heading out to Paris. No, no other considerations he has to really think about much. So, at first, we see Laertes and Ophelia, and they're somewhere near the docks, where Laertes has sent his trunks off to the ship, and he's about to leave. And so it's enter Laertes and Ophelia. We haven't seen Ophelia, but we very quickly understand that they're brother and sister. And Laertes says, "My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit, and convoy as assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you." She says, Ophelia says, "Do you doubt that?" People wrote to each other like all the time. They didn't have phones. They didn't have anything. They just had letters that went out, every day. And they could write many letters to the same person a day and notes that just went across town. It was all letters. Okay. Do you doubt that? Apparently they're very close. The brother and sister. Let me hear from you. Do you doubt that? And Laertes says, for Hamlet, he's going to give Ophelia advice. For Hamlet and the trifling of his favor, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood. Just a momentary passion. A fashion and a toy in blood. A violet in the youth of primy nature. Forward, not permanent. Sweet, not lasting. The perfume and suppliance of a minute. No more. And Ophelia says, no more but so? And Laertes says, think it no more. For nature crescent, like the crescent moon growing full. Nature crescent does not grow alone in thews and bulk, strength and size. But as this temple, the body, waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now. And now no soil nor caudal doth besmirch the virtue of his will. He's totally sincere. Maybe he loves you, and he believes it himself. But you must fear. His greatness weighed, his will is not his own. For he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself. For on his choice depends the sanity and health of this whole state. And therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. That's a little exaggeration. He's not the head of state, but he is next in line, as Claudius says. You're the next to our throne. So Hamlet is the prince. He is in line for the throne. He has a responsibility to the sanity and health of this whole state. Now, there's controversies about some of these lines. I'm just giving you my favorite version. then if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his particular act and place may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. So, here we have it. Laertes is saying Hamlet may be perfectly sincere, but he is the prince, he has duties he can't carve for himself. Meaning if he says, oh, I want to marry you, let's get married, oh, let's get married, and then along comes the king and says, Hamlet, by the way, for the sake of peace and so on, we want you to marry the princess of Poland. This is the kind of thing that princes had to do. Princes, princesses, they intermarried with royal families of other states. Sort of a middle term between land held by force and land held by law. Is peace maintained not with an explicit treaty, but by intermarriage of the royal families? Well, that's one way to ensure that people will talk to each other rather than shoot, at least at first. So this was a problem for princes and princesses. Hamlet might be told by Claudius to marry somebody else. In other words, until you've got that ring, the official, not only Hamlet's sincere, but the official permission of the king to get married, don't do anything with Hamlet. Don't lose your, well, he'll go on. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain. If with too credent ear, too believing ear, you list his songs, listen to his songs, maybe poetry, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Unmastered importunity sounds like lust. But even if Hamlet is driven by lust, he's still also driven by love. That's the assumption. Laertes is saying that Hamlet is good. He's good. But he might be overruled by Claudius before he actually marries you. Fear it, Ophelia. Fear it, my dear sister. And keep you in the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. This is like saying in the rear of a battle. You know, you're back where the generals are watching the battle. You're not in the front lines with the shot and the danger. Hold back, keep back. The chariest maid, that is the most modest maid, the chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon. I don't think he means dancing naked in the woods under the moon. It's sort of like the moon is coming in the window and she's getting ready for bed, but it's pretty extreme, but it's rhetoric. The chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. Virtue itself, you may be perfectly virtuous, and yet people are going to spread rumors about you. They're going to slander you. They're going to spread rumors. Calumny is slander. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before their buttons be disclosed. The canker could be a canker worm, a caterpillar, but something that destroys young plants with a canker, a disease, before they bloom. When they're very young, they can be destroyed almost in their infancy before they become mature. Contagious, and in the morn and liquid dew of youth. The morn and liquid dew of youth. contagious blastments are most imminent. It's danger, what you can do with your youth that will destroy your life. And they could destroy their lives. Losing your virginity was a terrible thing for certain young noble women like Ophelia. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near. How can youth rebel to itself? You might say there must be two selves in there. One is the desirous sexual lust with young men, but let's make it with women, desire for, to love their loved one. Youth to itself rebels. And then on the other side, there's the upright youth, the idealistic youth, and then there's the youth driven by lust, by desire, by other youthful forces. And I guess youth to itself rebels would be the forces of lust and desire overcome the idealistic forces of youth wanting to live a perfect life and be pure and upright. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near. You're divided between your lust and your love. And Ophelia says, I shall the effect of this good lesson keep as watchman to my heart. But, good my good brother, we would say, good my brother, do not, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whiles like a puffed and reckless libertine, himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and recks not his own rede, takes not his own advice. Now I can see that recks not his own rede is confusing the audience because we don't know those words anymore. And you could cut that line, but I think that line gives Ophelia just another moment to focus in on Laertes. Himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and recks not his own rede. She suspects that he is not going to be as chaste in Paris as he's telling her to be in Denmark. And perhaps it's possible that Laertes has even in Denmark engaged in some dalliance that Ophelia knows about. So she knows not only that he will be hypocritical, but that he already has been hypocritical, perhaps. This is the double standard. Young men can dally. They can fool around, supposedly. But young women, oh boy, they got to keep it locked up. Laertes says, "Oh, fear me not. I stay too long." Now, a lot of people have noticed this and thought, well, Laertes hears her say this, accusing him of hypocrisy, or at least potential future hypocrisy, and he doesn't want to get into that. He doesn't want to swear. He says, "Oh, fear me not," but then I stay too long. He wants to leave. He wants to get out of here. He doesn't want to face any more of this accusation, because it's true. Ophelia is objecting to the double standard applied to men and women, and he's saying, "Oh, I hold to the single standard of purity, but goodbye." In church, you know, they'd hear sermons, "Oh, the young man and the young woman, when they get married, they must be totally chaste and virginal and pure." And everybody says, "Oh, yes, fine. Oh, yeah, that's true." They get out of church and real life sets in. in which there is this double standard. It grows out of the biological double standard, which is that women can have children, men can't. If men had children, the world would be very different. So Ophelia knows this, and she is very canny, very knowing about how things work in the world and the hypocrisy of the double standard to which young women are held and young men are not. Wells, like a puffed and reckless libertine, himself the primrose path of dalliance treads. These are beautiful lines. These are wonderful lines. This is Laertes as the equal to her brother, talking back to him, arguing against him, warning him that he is likely to be hypocritical in this, and he's demanding more from her than he demands from himself. So many people say when he says, "Oh, fear me not, I stay too long," he wants to get out of there. So I stay too long. He hasn't got much time. He's got to get going. But wait, here comes Polonius. Oh, now he doesn't have to stay. Now he doesn't have to go. He can wait. But here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave. Polonius taking a second leave. Polonius is going to do some talking, and Ophelia will be pushed out of consciousness. He won't have to pay attention to Ophelia because Polonius will just talk to him, and then he can leave. So he welcomes Polonius as another distraction, not merely, I have to get out of here. Oh, my father, here's my father. But here my father comes, a double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave. They've already taken the first leave. That was man to man, we assume, in Polonius's room. Polonius gave advice to Laertes, and they said goodbye and bye. Then Laertes goes out down by the docks, and there is Ophelia waiting outside. And he has some advice for Ophelia, and she has a warning for him about hypocrisy, which he really doesn't want to think about too much. But here my father comes, a double blessing is a double grace. He knows there's going to be another blessing now that Polonius is coming down. Occasion smiles upon a second leave. A second leave is embarrassing. It is an accident. It's like you say goodbye after a visit, you drive off, and 5 minutes later you drive back and say, oh, I think I left my phone there on the table. Oh, there it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Bye. Well, it's not too bad, but it is a little embarrassing. It's a mistake. Occasion smiles upon a second leave. These are words no one in the history of the world has ever said. Occasion smiles upon a second leave. The only reason it smiles upon a second leave is because it releases him from having to talk to Ophelia more and hear more of her accusations. Now, why is Polonius here anyway? He's come walking down to the docks, and he expects to see Laertes' boat in the distance, or maybe he's got some other, errand. But Polonius is surprised to see Laertes. This is accidental. He doesn't intend a second leave. He just happens along, and he says, "Yet here, Laertes, aboard, for shame. The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for." The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail. Beautiful. There my blessing with thee. He touches him puts his hand on the head or whatever. There my blessing with you, and these few precepts in thy memory, look thou character. He pronounces it character according to the meter. That was an option for Shakespeare. Nowadays, I would say don't confuse the audience. Have the actor pronounce it in a way that could be character, but could be character, so the audience isn't thrown off the rails by that. Look thou character, inscribe in your memory. Give thy thoughts, here's his advice, give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. Those friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel, but do not dull thy palm with entertainment, buying drinks or whatever, of each new-hatched, unfledged courage. A young man called a courage would be, a drinker in the tavern. I'll kill those Poles when I go to war or whatever. They're just, they're young men. They're sort of unruly, untested young men, these courages, these comrades of the tavern. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Once you're in a quarrel, don't back down. If it's, I suppose a duel, fight a duel. But one way or another, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Don't get known as a wimp. Give every man thy ear, but few thy voice. Listen, but don't talk too much. Take each man's censure, listen to each man's opinion, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit, as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy. For the apparel oft proclaims the man, and they in France of the best rank and station are of all most select and generous, chief in that. The apparel oft proclaims the man. We may remember Hamlet saying, these but the trappings and the suits of woe. I have that within which passes show. These but the trappings and the suits of woe. In other words, you can go around in mourning clothes without really being in mourning personally, without really being in grief. So the apparel would not proclaim the man. In that case, the apparel would falsify the man. But here, the apparel oft proclaims the man, and this is more or less true in normal, aristocratic circles. What you wear is an important sign. And they in France of the best rank and station are of all most select and generous, chief in that. That's a editorial speculation. Anyway, neither a borrower, it doesn't matter. All these alternative, what is the line really, what are the words really supposed to be, doesn't matter here. Because they're all just saying the same thing, which is that the French aristocrats are very good at choosing their clothes. They are of all most select and generous. Select would be they have good taste, they're not gaudy. Generous, they're willing to pay up for the good stuff. They're rich. Rich, not gaudy. Just a repetition of that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. Husbandry meaning thrift. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, Thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee. This is very famous advice, and a lot of people have taken it as being very good advice. They put it up on their wall, To this above all, to thine own self be true, and this must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. To thine own self be true. So that would mean Polonius is saying, you are good, Laertes. You're a good man. Be true to that good self in you, which is your real self. But we must be alerted by now in this play that thine own self is something hard to define. It may be divided. Youth to itself rebels. Where is the being true to your own self there? Youth to itself rebels, though none else near. So there is ambiguity here in what thine own self is, and Hamlet is going to fill the play with, what is myself? Am I a coward or what? Why don't I act? Well, just be true to yourself. It's not that easy. So this is, to Shakespeare, a naive simplification to say, you just look inside yourself, see your true self, and do what your true self says. Shakespeare calls this in question. This whole play is calling that in question. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee. Laertes, most humbly do I take my leave, my lord. Polonius, the time invites you. Go, your servants tend. Laertes, farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you. Ophelia, 'tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it. I'll wait for your advice before doing anything serious. Laertes, farewell, and he goes. Polonius, what is to Ophelia he hath said to you? Now here we get the point of the second leave. There's a second leave where Polonius apparently repeats the advice he gave in the first leave, but unlike the first leave, Ophelia is here. And we've already seen Laertes give Ophelia his advice and her object, but him not wanting to spend much time on that objection. And now, as Laertes leaves, he says, remember what I said to you. And Polonius says, what is it, Ophelia, he hath said to you? So now we can turn to Polonius's advice, not advice really, but more of a, commanding instruction. So this is the structure of the scene. You get Laertes and Ophelia. Then Polonius comes accidentally to give a second leave so we can hear all his advice to Laertes. After hearing Laertes' advice to Ophelia, and then, what is it Ophelia said to you? Now we get Polonius's take on it. His not advice, but command to Ophelia. So the movement from Laertes and Ophelia to Laertes and Polonius to Polonius and Ophelia is all neatly arranged to take this path. And that is only possible because we have a second leave. So now Polonius turns to Ophelia. What is it, Ophelia, he hath said to you? Ophelia, so please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet. Polonius, marry, well bethought. Marry is just a general, expression like, by Jove, well bethought. But marry, just a little side note, is an oath that derives from by the Virgin Mary. Just interesting provenance of marry. Marry well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. 'Tis told me, that the calumnious tongues are at work. Spies are telling Polonius, there's danger. Ophelia and Hamlet are spending private time together. You know what that can mean. If it be so, as so 'tis put on me, said to me, and that in way of caution, people are cautioning him, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor. Here we have it again. If you can look inside yourself and just do what your true self would do, you have to understand yourself. But here, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter, that comes first, and your honor. What is between you? Give me up the truth. So the to thine own self be true is contradicted or questioned all over the place. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near. You do not understand yourself so clearly. She doesn't understand the power that she could be swept away and the danger of it. What is between you? Give me up the truth. He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me. Affection? Pooh! You speak like a green girl unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them? I do not know, my lord, what I should think. So he's really saying that Hamlet is totally false, and she doesn't understand this. I do not know what I should think. Marry, I will teach you. Think yourself a baby, that have ta'en these tenders for true pay, which are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly, or, not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, running it thus, you'll tender me a fool. This crack the wind of the poor phrase, running it thus, Polonius not only speaks, but he comments on the style, the words he's using. There's a self-consciousness about style there that intrudes for no particular reason, so it seems, except to express Polonius's sort of always working mind. Running it thus, you'll tender me a fool. Some people think to present me with an illegitimate child, but no, the fool would be Ophelia, or you'll give me a fool. That is a young woman who is ruined, who has been seduced and abandoned. That's the fool I will see if you let Hamlet have his way. And Ophelia wants to object to this. My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion. Polonius, aye, fashion, you may call it. Go to. And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, says Ophelia, with almost all the holy vows of heaven. Almost all the holy vows of heaven. The unspoken vow would be marriage. Polonius, aye, springes to catch woodcocks. A springe was a snare. It was bent down, and a bird would come along and get caught, and phew, it would spring up, and the bird would be strangled probably by its neck. Springes, so it's like a spring, a snare. And they called it springs, but it had an E on the end, so springes. I springes to catch woodcocks. Woodcocks were particularly stupid birds, easily caught in snares. I do know when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul lends the tongue vows. When the blood burns, how prodigal the soul lends the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise as it is a making, you must not take for fire. It's confusing imagery, because the blood burns, that's the heat. In the heat of lust, you make many vows that you later don't go through with. Relevant to Hamlet too. I do know when the blood burns, but here these blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat. The blazes are like the passion expressed in the vows. I love you, I will marry you, I will be faithful forever. These are blazes which give more light than heat. That is, light is like the idealistic picture of perfection, but the heat is the real passion that will sustain them. The idea is that lust is a heat that dies out. More light than heat. Extinct in both, even in their promise as it is a making, you must not take for fire. From this time, be something scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. Hamlet comes by and he says, I want to go for a walk with Ophelia by the river. And as she used to come out and walk with him or see him, talk with him, now it's like, I'm sorry, she can't come out now. For Lord Hamlet believes so much in him that he is young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. The larger tether comes from him being a man. You could say, as a prince, he has a larger tether. He can fool around with women and then get away with it because he's a prince. But Laertes was pointing to Hamlet's duty as the prince, which may interfere with his sincere love for Ophelia. Sincere duty, sincere love. Hamlet's good, but he's just going to be taken away by the king who wants him to marry someone else. But here, Polonius says, with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. It means just as a young man, he can fool around, dally, more than a young woman. There's no sign that Polonius has in mind any duty of Hamlet as the prince. In few, Ophelia, in few words, to sum up, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers not of that dye which their investments show, the outward signs, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bawds, pimps, the better to beguile. And these vows are just to beguile you, to get you into bed. This is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, have you so slender any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Come your ways. Come on, let's go. I shall obey, my lord. No words or talk. So she can't talk to Hamlet. She can't write to him. She can't exchange words by letter with him. She is to totally cut off all contact with Hamlet as of now. No warning, just shut the door. I see Ophelia. Oh, I'm sorry, Ophelia can't come out now. He is confining her to house arrest. I shall obey, my lord. Ophelia had these lines. Do not like ungracious pastors do show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst himself the primrose path of dalliance treads. That is an objection to the double standard. It is kind of feminist. It is a feminist speech. And it is also the speech that shows why Hamlet would love Ophelia. Ophelia is smart. She comes back at her brother with wit. She's like an equal with her brother, speaking to him on equal terms. And she also knows something about how young men do things, as opposed to the advice they give young women. She's lovable. She's maturing into a Beatrice or a Rosalind. And now she is crushed back to house arrest. I shall obey, my lord. Never again is Ophelia happy in this play. She was going down to the dock talking to Laertes, and in the background is Hamlet loves her. He's told her he loves her, and they have a great relationship, and it's wonderful. Forget about it. I would call attention to a couple things here that, first of all, Laertes is saying Hamlet may be a totally good person, not driven by false lust. He really loves you. He wants to marry you. And yet his duty as the prince may mean that he has to go marry someone else. He doesn't, he warns her against Hamlet, and you sort of think that it's like a warning against a standard young man's lust. While the blood burns, the soul lends, the tongue vows, and then the fire dies out. So Laertes, I think, is speaking ostensibly about how Hamlet's duty may interfere with his, as the prince, may interfere with his marriage to Ophelia. He's not giving this Hamlet is a creature of lust like all young men. But that's what Polonius is saying. You note also that Polonius's advice to Laertes has no mention of women. There is nothing about sex. No advice about sex here. Stand back, be careful, don't give in to lust. Nothing like that. This is all advice to Laertes about living in a world of men. We forget women even exist. And then Polonius turns to Ophelia, and his advice is about nothing but sex. It's only avoid sex. And you can only do that by avoiding Hamlet with his false promises of love. And Polonius is coming down so hard on Ophelia and crushing the independence out of her for good. We don't realize how terrible it's going to prove to be yet. And Polonius is saying all young men are like this, and he was like this too. That's how he knows. So Ophelia, what is she going to do? Say, well, you're wrong about that. Young men are they're not all. No, she respects her father. I shall obey, my lord. And off the two of them go. So they have uh, advice to Laertes to hold back. Don't give every man thy voice. Be restrained like older aristocrats. Don't go around rich and gaudy like young men. Don't dull thy palm with entertainment of each new-hatched, unfledged courage. Hold back. Hold back your judgment. Be restrained. Get your thoughts well proportioned before you act. And Polonius' advice and his advice to Ophelia, and Polonius' advice to Ophelia is in a way the same thing. It's hold back, but it's sexual restraint we're talking about, rather than just social restraint on Laertes. So that we have the double standard objected to and then reinforced by Polonius. So the makings of tragedy are being brought into the play here. Now, the next scene will be Hamlet's encounter with the ghost. Take that next time. Bye.